So is it more effective to run or walk if you want to lose some fat? So I get that question, Dr. Aaron, I'm feeling, overweight. I'm not happy with how I look, or I look down at the scale and all of a sudden my weight is, you know, twice as much as it was before, and I just want to do something to lose some of this fat. And I just want to feel better and have more energy. Where do you start? Do you start with exercise? Do you start with a diet? Should you do something like keto, etc.? There are a lot of nuances to losing fat and getting and staying at a healthy weight. And that is the most important thing in my mind. In my mind, when it comes to your weight, your body composition, your muscle mass, it's important to get healthy to lose fat instead of losing fat to get healthy. Does that sound a little counterintuitive? So here's what I believe. Accumulating fat and having too much weight is actually a symptom and not the root cause. So when it comes to what type of exercise, should you walk or should you run in order to lose that fat, there's some problems with running being the first option. So let me explain. I have personally been someone who's gone from hating running. I swore I would never run a half marathon or marathon, but things change, and then I went to a dedicated long distance runner. This is the first marathon. This is my bid for the first marathon I ever ran, the 2015 Seattle Marathon. I've done, the Vancouver half. I've done all types of different runs. This is just a handful of bibs that I could find. The issue with running, if you want to lose weight, so you imagine you're starting from a place where you're not in the best shape. Maybe it's been years since you've exercised. Maybe you've been dealing with other health issues, and you're essentially going from the couch to a marathon. There are a few important downfalls and risks with endurance running. So the first is that long distance running and endurance sports can be actually very metabolically stressful on your system. You're like, oh, but what does that have anything to do with fat? So under stress, you might have heard of the hormone cortisol. This is that stress hormone. There's also the stress hormone adrenaline, the thing that makes your palms clammy, your heart rate go up, you start sweating, you kind of fight, flight, or freeze. Those are the hormones involved in that reaction. So when you are long distance running and training for something like a marathon, or even doing longer runs just to lose weight, you are temporarily increasing your cortisol and your adrenaline. These are good things. This is the way your body operates in times of stress. It's like an activating hormones in order to get you going. If you need to run from a tiger or a threat, you have a deadline to hit, you're going to feel the effects of cortisol and adrenaline. The downside of that, if you're not in the healthiest place and your body's already stressed out, running can actually increase those hormones. And if you don't have the right recovery routine, you're not getting enough sleep, you're stressed out at work, that accumulation of stress is just going to make you hold on to fat more, right? So if you've seen people who are stressed, they have that body type where they're kind of bigger in the middle, they got the skinny legs, they got the puffy face. That can happen if you jump into endurance running all in without taking care of the other aspects of your health. The second downfall of running as a way to lose fat is actually the risk of injury. So before I ran my first marathon, I was working with the physical medicine club, the sports medicine club at my school, my medical school. So we would volunteer after the Seattle Marathon, working in the rehab kind of recovery area. So I taped up ankles. I was helping people with sore muscles and injuries. So I got to see the whole spectrum of people who finished the race feeling, naturally tired, and those who didn't handle that run so well. They tended to be the people who maybe didn't train properly, who were you could tell they went from like couch to marathon, which is 26.2 miles in too short a period of time, and they ended up getting injured. They would throw out their backs, they would have slip discs, major injuries, and you can imagine what happens if you get a major injury and you can't move. Well, you're not going to be doing any running or walking or movement, and then you just end up gaining more weight because you're just so sedentary. So that's number two. The risk of injury from endurance sports is real. Unless you know what you're doing, you've trained for it, and you have a plan to build up those miles. So the third drawback of doing a lot of running and increasing your metabolism, you think, oh, I need a faster metabolism in order to lose weight. That's a little bit of a myth. And I experienced this myself. So what happens if you do a lot of high intensity, long endurance type of activity? Think of Michael Phelps. He is infamous for his diet. So when he was in the Olympics, winning all those gold medals, it was well documented that he would eat, 10,000 calories, pancakes, waffles, pizza. Maybe not the best diet, but he was eating a lot to maintain that level of activity and output. So the tendency for our metabolism to actually increase and also comes with an appetite increase and more hunger. So I was very conscientious of what I was eating quality meals, not eating a lot of junk food or carb loading. I was very conscientious of what I was eating while I was running. But even then, I tended to just eat a lot more. And once I somewhat retired from marathon training, kind of changed the way I work out to do more movement, walking, strength training, yoga, high intensity interval training. So my appetite and hunger I was eating as much as I was eating while I was running. And that became a problem. So it took some time for that to normalize itself. But if you might notice a lot of there are people who run a lot but don't necessarily lose the fat. Some do, some don't, but there's other factors that go into it. So you might just end up eating more when you are running long distance. So with those three drawbacks, I wouldn't necessarily recommend running be the first step someone takes to lose fat. I would recommend instead they focus their energy on how they operate in the kitchen. What you eat, how you eat, when you eat, the quality of the food you eat. Start there. And in terms of activity, you want to be regularly moving. And one of the best ways to move regularly, humans were designed to walk and be in motion. You don't necessarily need the intensity of running to lose fat. So start with what you eat and how you eat. And when it comes to physical activity, go with the more regular movement. A 20-minute walk will give you 80% of the heart health benefits. And you don't even have to do that 20 minutes continuously. You might think, okay, it's 10,000 steps. You might heard 20 minutes. If you're doing 5 minutes here 4 times a day, that will get you started. And rather than pound away on the pavement or spending hours on a treadmill, suffering and putting more stress on your body, start with walking. You will put less stress on your body short term, and often you allow your body to get healthy and naturally start releasing some of that, accessing some of that fat as energy, and you will make more progress sustainably than running and pounding away. So I hope that saved you some time, some heartache. And if you have any questions, you enjoy this video, give me a thumbs up, click subscribe. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. So I will talk to you in the next video. Until then, keep walking.